Hey gang, Eric Trump, the first son, one of the 5 Trump children, is going to be on the program today. And I'm going to talk to him about his book, Under Siege. But I have something else planned, which I think is going to be pretty cool, which is I have an opening commentary that I was eager already to deliver to his father. And now I will deliver that commentary via Eric Trump and talk about the book. By the way, I read the book. Of course I read the book. I always read the book. But there's one part of the book. If you can actually take a little ISO on my markings. Yeah, that's the way I read, by the way, with a red Sharpie in my hand. And in the book, Eric Trump has a discussion of the assassination attempt in Butler, and then a heading, Everything Hidden Will Be Revealed. Everything hidden will be revealed. I'll just give you one paragraph, actually one sentence fragment. A 20-year-old armed with multiple cell phones attempted to kill my father, the father of the greatest political movement in American history, from an unmanned, unprotected rooftop. I remain totally unsatisfied. So he is very much of the opinion that there's more to the story that we do not know about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. So looking forward to that. That should be a great part of today's program. Let me tell you some other things that I have planned. And I want to thank my friends at Parx Casino, as always. Shohei Ohtani. My lead story today at Smerconish.com is actually about the the LA legend, Shohei Ohtani. 10 strikeouts, gave up 0 runs, and himself hit 3, as I put it in the headline at Smerconish.com, moonshots last night in that game. So LA is now advancing. They look unstoppable to me. It's a big weekend for sports action. Michigan is a 5.5-point home fave hosting Washington. Michigan State is a 27-point road underdog at 3rd-ranked Indiana. So my friends at Play Gun Lake in the great state of Michigan, there's some great action for you there. Philly is at Minnesota. New York hosts Carolina on Sunday. And then Monday, Detroit Pro Football is a 4.5-point home fave hosting Tampa Bay. Play Gun Lake and Parx Casino, there's always much, much more than whether your team wins or loses the game. There's always another way for you to win, I guess is what I'm trying to say. BetParx.com, PlayGunLake.com. For all the terms and conditions, you've got to be 21 and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Michigan. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. The poll question today at Smerconish.com on this Saturday: which worries you the most? And I give you a half dozen different choices in terms of which worries you the most. Why am I asking this? I'm asking this. I've got a whole reading stack here that I want to briefly make reference to. But I'm asking it today because this book has gotten a lot of attention, and a lot of attention on my program. Eliezer Yudkowsky and Nate Soares was a guest of mine, have written a book called If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. And they say that artificial intelligence is going to kill us. Not the current form of artificial intelligence, but the next super intelligent form of AI. And I thought that Nate Soares was a great radio guest, and so he's going to be on the CNN program today. I've already asked the question as to whether you agree that AI poses an existential threat, and people said yes, they do. And so that got me thinking, okay, in the scheme of other perceived existential threats, where do we place AI? So your choices are artificial intelligence, climate change, pretty self-evident, extreme weather events. As somebody said to me, do you believe in climate change? And I said, I do. And they said to me, how come? And I said, because I have a house with a window. I've seen enough. So your choices: AI, climate change, cybersecurity threats. This is a tip of the hat to Richard Clarke, who has advised 3 American presidents on cybersecurity threats and has convinced me that that's something that we really need to be concerned about. It's almost like a silent killer. You know, if somebody puts a bug in our electrical grid or otherwise can debilitate our ability to power this country, we'd be done. Global pandemics, also on my list of existential threats. And I was thinking to myself, I don't believe in my lifetime that we ever get back on the same page if, God forbid, there were a pandemic. Too much dissent in the country right now, and I think it's going to take another generation or two for people to forget how disjointed we were relative to COVID before there's a fresh slate, and we could get on the same page if we needed to. Nuclear war, self-evident. Look at the situation right now relative to Russia and Ukraine. The only reason President Trump is not giving Tomahawk missiles to Zelensky right now is the fear that Putin would reciprocate with a tactical nuke. And then a catch-all, and my favorite not in terms of bringing me joy, but favorite in terms of answering today's poll question as to which worries you the most: societal instability. Societal instability. And by that, I mean all of the polarization. Because if we can't put the pieces back together of society, then we're not going to solve any of these other issues. So that's getting my vote. Which worries you the most? And no surprise to anybody who listens to me on a regular basis, it's the polarization, it's the societal instability. By the way, so just in terms, you might find this interesting. As I mentioned, Eric Trump is a guest today. I've read the book Under Siege. I encourage everybody to watch on YouTube portions of the interview that I did with John Malone, the cable titan, born to be wired. Loved this book. It's a great granular explanation of the cable cowboys, those who literally laid the cable wire and built the industry, and he's the, he's the king of that industry. As I said, at one time, my boss's boss's boss at both SiriusXM and CNN, and we had a series of great exchanges in my interview with him this week, where I got to talk to him about, why can't we have a cable outlet that targets the center of the country, intentionally goes after selling sneakers, as I like to put it, to independents. As long as I'm looking at the book stack, I'll just mention a couple of other things. Joe Manchin was a guest of mine on CNN last weekend. He'll be on the POTUS program this week. Yes, I've read this book too. I'm a Joe Manchin fan. It's interesting to me that, and we'll talk about this on radio this week, he says that he didn't run for president in the last cycle because he couldn't be assured of ballot access. And I thought that No Labels had that locked up. Even though he's retired from the Senate, Manchin doesn't sound to me like a person who has had enough. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. This one I'm going to take home and give to our daughter and son-in-law because our grandson is going to need to benefit from these lessons. This is Jeffrey Salingo in Dream School. And I thought this book was terrific. He wrote a book, Who Gets In and Why, and this is now the companion to it. And it's essentially Salingo saying, stop concentrating on the Ivies, because in all likelihood, all they're going to bring about is disappointment. And instead, take a look at a whole host of other good schools where you'll get a quality education without all the angst of, am I one of the 5% who got in? And in the appendix of the book, he actually lists all the schools that he recommends in different categories that people take a look at. What else have I read recently? Bill McKibben, Here Comes the Sun. He is a climate change pioneer, and in this book advocates the power that we could draw from the sun if only we would up our effort to harness its energy. I thought this was really good. I loved David Paul Kuhn in Hard Hat Riot. We talked about this on President Nixon's watch. How men, they were literally climbed off the steel girders that they were building the World Trade Center and other lower Manhattan skyscrapers to fight kids in the street who were protesting against the Vietnam War. You're saying to yourself, Michael, that's a hell of a lot of reading. Yeah, it is a hell of a lot of reading. And by the way, here's what now sits on my nightstand. This is Andrew Ross Sorkin, 1929. Yikes, look at the size of that. Look at the size of that. So this is next up for me. But I really do read the books. I'm not patting myself on the back. or maybe I am, but I have to read the books. There's no amount of being prepped or reading reviews that puts me in the position to conduct the interview that I want to conduct. I'll give you a great example. So I have paid attention to Eric Trump in the last couple of days. I'm doing the weave. I'm going to end up where I began. I've been paying attention to Eric Trump in the last couple of days in anticipation of interviewing him about his book, because it's the #1 book in the country. It's #1 at Amazon. And in watching some of his television appearances and in reading the reviews of the book, nowhere have I seen, it may exist and I may have missed it, but I doubt it. But nowhere have I seen anyone question him as to why he believes there's more to the story pertaining to his father's assassination attempt. So, yeah, I want to get into that. And if I hadn't read it myself, then, I'd blow it like everybody else. So Larry King, and I had immense respect for Larry King, and it was a great honor for me to be on Larry King's program on a number of occasions. But there was one area with which I disagreed in terms of how you conduct a program. He said that he never read the books because he wanted to be in the same position as the audience. Hey, the audience hasn't read the book and I want to be at their level. That never made sense to me. That never made sense to me. All right, go vote on the poll question at Smerconish.com. I give you a number of choices, 8 different choices, 6 different choices, and I ask you, which worries you most? Which worries you most? I'm voting for societal instability. If nothing else, what you'll take away from that list in today's poll question is we have a lot of serious problems. And the way in which we address those serious problems is something that I'm going to discuss with Eric Trump on CNN today. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. You're here now. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. Set yourself up for notifications. I'll see you on television soon and radio on Monday. See ya.